I'm calling the Playground Working Group meeting of the Darien Parks and Recreation Commission, regular meeting, 8:45 Thursday, March 9th, 2023, to order. The first item on the agenda is to approve the minutes from January 19th and February 16th. Pam, thanks for putting the minutes together. Really appreciate it. I don't know if I got the February ones now that I'm.
February was canceled.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So then that
Yeah.
makes it easy. Okay. Sorry. So we don't need to approve February.
In
We might
January,
need
I
to
wasn't
wait.
sure who was absent or in attendance. So take a look at the attendance there and see if I'm correct.
We might need to wait, Susan, and since it's really just you and I that can vote
Yeah.
on
that's
it. There's only two of us on the meeting so far.
Yeah. But are there any changes? We're probably the only ones that are gonna.
Well, Sarah's here.
Oh, is she?
Yeah.
Yeah, you
she's
can't
on the
see her?
bottom right there. Yeah, she's on the very bottom of my screen.
Yeah. So I'm
I got
gonna
it
get a
in my
pencil. I'll be right back.
Okay, there she is. Hi, Sarah.
Was Ruth at that meeting? I felt like she was. Do you remember, Patty? Let me see. I
I
wrote
feel
it.
like Ruth was at the meeting.
I remember her speaking
Mhm.
for some reason in my head, which is a good thing. I think she was there.
Okay.
Pam, was Ruth at the meeting in January? But I can't remember now that oh, actually, let me see.
I'm not certain. And I don't know why I would think I was correct only because I was looking at the video. as I
Oh,
was
so maybe
doing it.
it's right then. I thought we might have joined later.
We'll have to double check that.
Okay, it sounds like we'll have to go wait on the actual voting of it, but it sounds like, sorry, there's no changes, hopefully.
Oh, you're muted. Okay.
I'm sorry, my dog is barking. That's why I muted myself. There's workers next doors and she's decided that that's part of our property, so she needs to protect it. I apologize. So I might do that occasionally because she has quite a loud bark for a big dog.
She's defending.
Anyway, why don't we, since we can't vote on it, we'll wait till more people get on to vote on it. I guess we need 5 people, so they'll need at least 2 more. Patty, what do you think? Is that the number we need? I feel
Yeah,
like,
and I mean, people, Curtis is jumping on at 9 and Alyssa and
Yeah.
Kurt, you're right. So we can wait on that.
yeah. Okay, so one of the items that I talked, I kind of sent it late yesterday because I've been really preoccupied with a couple of other things, was the idea about making sure that we have a better sense. Oh, sorry, I meant to say, we'll go into the third item, which is discussion on Cherry Lawn improvements and playground wish list. So I guess I was thinking about how Cherry Lawn is different from McGuan, and that McGuan, we knew we were going to start from scratch almost and take everything away. But with Cherry Lawn, we're going to be, replacing some, keeping some, and it's actually a more complex project because there's, different things that we're considering in terms of equipment. So I asked Pam kind of late last night to kind of give us an overview about what we're keeping and what we're removing, and also like what we have there, because I don't know, like I think most everybody on this call right now or this meeting spend time at Cherry Lawn, so they know what's there. But I think for us to kind of have like that broad view and seeing what we want to, some of the elements that we are replacing, do we want to keep them or not? I think like we've talked endlessly about those cool spinners that are in the under 5. So that might be an element that we want to either keep that one or get it more or whatever. So Pam, if you want to just go over what the new items are that we've gotten.
Sure. So in the last, I want to say because let's say it's 2020, it was before 2020, we replaced 2 units in the toddler area, like 2 climbers. So it's very obvious when you visit that section that those are newer. And then in the 5 to 12, we replaced a spinner with a big heavy globe spinner. And as much as we have some complaints about it, it still is very heavily used because they climb on it. It's a climber and it's just it's just very hard to spin because it's so heavy, but it's heavy duty piece of equipment that we'll have for many years. Good point, Susan, about perhaps the little bucket spinners and things like that, like to really look at whether we want to save those because, you know, that there's some wear and tear, obviously, you know, they're faded, but we may take a special look at what we want to keep. But most of it, I would say 95% of it's going to go. So we're going to get new stuff.
So I guess if we can just run down what might need to be replaced that we want to keep, or even what's old that we may or may not want to keep. We have 2 sets of swings, right? One in the older kids section and one in the younger area, right? And there, I think 2 bays on each set, right? Is that true?
Hey,
Yes.
Susan, can I make a suggestion? Can we do it by sections?
Okay,
Can we
sure.
just say, let's
Sure,
do
sure. Under
kids,
5.
the
I would do
under,
that.
let's do the small and then the
Let's
large.
do under 5 first, since
Okay.
that's easy. So
Thank you.
there's 1 set of swings there, right? That is existing. There's a gazebo there. You probably know that. That people like to sit under when it's hot. There's 2 spinners. There's, what do you call them? Rocking horses, 2 of them, I want to say. No, maybe, is it 2 rocking horses? I wrote this down. Hold on.
It's 3.
Yes.
It's 3.
Three, right? And one's a 2-seater, isn't it?
Yeah, it's an airplane.
Yeah. So not that that matters, but it just helps in terms of knowing what we're taking away for kids. So 4 kids could be playing right on it. Is that a seesaw? Is that what they call that other item still?
Seesaw. Yep.
Yes. Is that a 4-person? Or is that?
Yeah.
4-person, right? And then there's one large structure that's older, right? And what else are we missing from the under 5?
And then the 2 new structures that you
New
mentioned.
structures.
Yeah, but that was already covered as
Right.
something new.
Right.
And the other thing is the fence. And we talked about the fence before we went on recording, about the fact that the gates are, you know, sometimes not closed properly and things like that. But overall, the fence itself is actually sturdy. The side where the maintenance occurs, where it's 2 doors, like towards the bathroom, that wiggles a little bit, so that needs to be re-cemented. But I think overall the structure was sound. But the gate, we're not sure if that's one of those things can ever be permanently solved. It's probably something that we're going to have to maintain and manage on an ongoing basis, just to confirm. But I think that's it for the under 5, right? Everybody, or do I have
Yeah,
some?
I think that's
So let's go to the over 5. Would you even limit it to a 12, or would you just say over 5?
it's 5 to 12. That's what
5
the
to 12.
sign is.
Okay, let's keep it there. So we already talked about the set of swings there with 2 bays. There's a tire swing, right? I call
Yes.
it a good way to
Which is
describe it.
very popular. Very
That's
popular.
great.
Kids
It's-
love it.
And then while we're
Love it.
talking about that, I'll just give you some feedback from kids and moms that it's the, they love the swing, but it's the tire, but it's really hot,
Mhm.
particularly in the summer. So
Yeah.
it's a different kind, you know, you can get
Yeah.
2 different kinds.
Yeah.
Sarah, I think you might have more of a flat one in your backyard. Do you have a swing in your backyard?
I have the net one, which is a different thing. Like, it's fun, and it's probably, I'll say, slightly safer because there's no hole to fall through, you know, like the little guys, if you
Okay.
don't have to hold on. I think, you know,
Right.
it's like the rope
Right.
one, right? Pam, you've seen those before. It's like,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't know, it's like a
Yeah.
net. Yeah.
Bungee.
So
The
So
net, and it's almost square, oh, it's
It's
round.
round.
It's got the netting around
round.
it.
okay.
yeah,
So
the tire
that
swing's
was
just
the-
such a
That was the
different.
feedback that I had heard back from people. So we
I
just
don't
may
mean to
want to
interrupt.
consider that, but I defer
Yes.
all of these things to, you know,
Can
Yeah.
Sarah, you.
I just want to
and-
go through the inventory first.
Sure.
And then we could talk about the pluses and minuses of
Sure.
everything. 'Cause that'll probably be better for the whole group to hear, you know, so that we don't have to repeat ourselves. Before I
Agreed.
forget, we should also talk, going back to the under 5, it's wood chips there. So I wanted to make sure we know that that's the surfacing that's there currently. And so we're at tire swing, and also put here wood chips, you know, if we're doing a complete inventory. Oh, you know what? Back to the kids, the under 5. I think there's some sand too, right, Pam?
No,
There's
they got
sand.
rid of it.
Oh,
They got
They got rid of
It's
it.
gone.
It was a sandbox.
But they're
On.
gone, no more sand? Okay, sorry.
No more.
You could tell how old I am that I remember.
It was a beehive.
Oh, was it? Oh, yeah, that's
Mm.
right. I remember that. Okay, wood chips, 2 set of 2 swings. What else do we have here? A jumper, I think, is that what you would call that thing that there's four, like, it was a jumping thing as a spring? What do you call that?
Yeah,
That's part of the whole unit, though.
Oh, it's not separated?
It's
Okay.
separate.
it's
Is it
separate.
I think
It's
it's
not
separate
attached.
because I
It's
saw it in the
separate.
picture. I thought it was
Separate.
it looked separate from the picture.
Okay.
I'll call it the jumper for argument's sake, but we can,
Okay.
call it, you know, and then, what else do we have here? I wrote everything. So the other structure is a large structure.
Yes.
It's all connected, right?
Mhm.
And it has a lot of, there's like a monkey bar part to it. There's kind of more of a balancing. And you know what? There's a roller
Slide.
slide that was hugely popular, which is why we replicated it. What else? Anything? I mean,
And regular slides. There's two that are.
regular slides.
Two sets.
Two
And
The
then
sets.
big
the thing that,
slides, yeah.
the thing we definitely want to replace is the
Timing.
thing that looks like upside down pointed hat, for lack of a better word, where it's three of them and the kids can come and grab on them and swing a little bit and go from the next one to the next one to the next one. That could be considered not the safest thing, I would say. So that is,
It's like a monkey bars kind of, but like
it's a monkey bar, but it is, but what happens is because when it gets cold and it's not turning and it's slippy, there could be falling issues. So enough said on that, but that definitely is something we
Twists. Okay.
want to replace with something different.
Does that also, it's been a little, the one where you kind of jump on it and you kind of slide to the other side, right? What is
There's
that?
that, yeah.
It's called like, it's almost like a zip line.
Like a
Yes.
zip line, yeah.
Mini,
Sorry.
and it's a mini one
Yeah, very many.
compared to like the really
One at
amazing
Royal.
ones at the Royal and the other school.
Yeah, I saw that Tokenique just got one that looked really, you could see it from the road where it's kind of long, a long.
Mhm.
shoot. The climbing things that Pam says she always is trying to replace, right? What do you call it? You know, the climbing.
Yeah, the
netting?
rung, the
It's not
rungs.
the rungs of the climbing, rung climbing. Okay. Anything else in terms of just doing like a quick inventory? So this is all old, everything that we just talked about.
With the
And
exception of the big circle that she had talked about, which
The
was the
globe.
different thing that they do love to climb on that, Pam.
Mhm. And what I
okay,
love about it is it can handle 20 kids.
Yeah.
yeah, that's nice. And that's, I think that's going to be let's talk a little bit more. We're still expecting a few people about the kids that come use that playground. And like, just to get an idea of what, you know, how old, when you visit, how old are kids playing on the under 5 versus the 5 to 12? Like, do you see
Okay.
that? Oh, here we have more people coming.
Yeah.
Users, we'll call them, obviously. It seems that there are a bit of preschoolers on the under 5 area. Is that what you're seeing when you're there, or anything different?
It's more the little kids going on the big kids thing, and they're not, you know, the parents have to be watching it. That's the bigger concern. But that's
That's everywhere.
You have signage
Yeah.
there, and we have to, you know, when this playground gets going, we have to have an article that says, you know, these are the separate ones. You're responsible for your kids. You know, be smart about it in a really positive way. But I would say do that. Sarah, go ahead, Susan. I was going to say, let's hit Sarah up since she goes there a lot. And
I just wanted to recap with the group
Okay.
where we're at. So the people that just joined us.
Okay.
What happened? We talked about the minutes and that we weren't able to vote on them because we didn't have a quorum. We didn't have a February meeting, only a January meeting. And maybe right now, if people are comfortable, we could vote on that just because then we can get it out of the way and it's something we've done. Were there any changes that you guys had for the minutes from January?
And we can ask Ruth if she was there. Were you at
Ruth,
that
were you
meeting?
there at the meeting?
Yeah,
I
the
thought you
last
were.
yeah.
Okay, so we'll put you back on as a attendee. And so do I have a motion to approve the minutes as presented, except for the correction of Ruth being there? Alyssa's gonna second. Ruth, or, oh, sorry.
Second. Yeah, I'll second.
And all in favor? Okay.
Aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous for the minutes. Thank you very much. So we can get that housekeeping thing in order. The second thing we did go to talk to was just doing a quick inventory of the equipment that currently exists at Cherry Lawn, because it'll give us a better idea of like what we need to replace and the age and everything. So there are only really 3 items that are brand new at the park, and that is the 2 toddler items under 5, and also the spinning globe. That's the things, those are the newest things, and we're probably not going to change those out because they're pretty new. We then did an inventory. Oh, maybe I should talk about the fence. We talked about the fence real briefly, and we said that it's not perfect, but it's actually a very sturdy fence. We feel like the gate might need like ongoing maintenance, but that the fence itself is great. Like, we're not going to change it. The side where the maintenance occurs with where they bring in wood chips and stuff, we wanted maybe to have that better cemented because it is a wiggly there. We also talked about the surfacing at both playgrounds, just real quick. They're wood chips. I know everybody knows that, but we wanted to make that obvious. We then listed all the new and old items at the park. If you want me to list them, I'm happy to. I'll list them real quick. So under 5, there's a set of swings with 2 bays, the gazebo, 2 spinners, 3 rocking horse type things that serves 4 kids, a seesaw that serves 4 kids, and a large structure that is existing. For the 5 to 12, there's a set of swings that has 2 bays, a tire swing, a jumping structure, a large structure with monkey bars, roller slide, kind of balancing items, climbing, a zip line thing, so various. So it's a bunch of things. So that's where we kind of ended up at. And then the next item that we then started talking about when you guys were jumping on and was just trying to figure out who our users are, just to make sure that we're kind of heading in the right direction with some of the things we're thinking of doing there. So this is a great time to hear from you guys because you're our users. So please jump in when you.
I'll just jump in. I feel like I use Cherry Lawn. Oh, I'm on mute. I'm mute? No. I use Cherry Lawn frequently when my oldest one is doing soccer and my little guy is being entertained, you know, he's looking for something. And then my babysitter pretty much goes there frequently because both kids have a fun place to play. So I think the ages, I think it's our biggest age range. I would say we definitely get the younger crew. A lot of preschool kids will go there after they have their school. I know my babysitter, every nanny play date that they have is there. They have lunch there, they have picnics. So I think we definitely have the little guys. But every time I'm there, I see a lot of older kids as well. So more than I see at other playgrounds. So I do think that we have the whole age range. I've seen kids up into 4th grade, you know, really enjoying that climbing structure in the large area. And then I've seen some of the bigger kids actually in the little kids areas, like playing with their siblings. So I actually find it's a big age range. And I know a lot of kids actually really enjoy all that climbing structure part, like that big, it's got a lot of everything.
Great feedback. Thank you very much, Ruth.
Yeah, what Ruth said, she's got it. I mean, it's by far our most used, most diverse. And what Patty said, or maybe Ruth said it, that, yeah, the little guys definitely love to go over to the big side, which I think is fine, right? Kids, they have to figure out what they can navigate and what they can. And the signage is obviously important, and that's all you can kind of do. People know, I mean, people here know, you can't really play dumb. I don't think that you don't know that the playground structure isn't made for little kids, you know, sometimes, and you just have to watch them. So, yeah. And, you know, when I go, if it's empty on the big kid side, I'm happy to take my little guys over. And when it's really crowded, I don't, right? Like, it's for the big kids and I don't want to take over their spot and, you know, make them have to watch the little guys. And, but that's why I think like the tire swing is great. And even the spinner thing, if it's, you know, even though it's heavy, it's easy for the little kids, you know, it doesn't feel like it's just for the 5 and older. So I kind of like that, you know, yes, the big structure is very geared towards taller and more agile children, but I think there's enough other elements that it feels like it's kind of inclusive for most ages. So I really feel like that's what Cherry Lawn has done well. And if we can kind of keep that, I think that's what's gonna, be the most successful. So just improving what we've already done so well, and making it a little more exciting maybe. So it feels new, not just looks new.
Yeah.
That's great, Sarah. Since you just used the word inclusive, I want to have Curtis weigh in on inclusiveness, especially with Cherry Lawn. I wouldn't say that's been the one that we've, been a lot, especially with the wood chips. It's really hard to have our, kids that might have physical challenges to use that playground. So if you want to weigh in about, if you go there, what are your impressions, Curtis?
You're muted.
You're on mute, Curtis.
Thank you. So we haven't been there in a long time, but when we did go there, there's just so much diversity of activity at Cherry Lawn that it's always fun for, when the kids were younger. You can watch a game, there's the garden, there's a trail, and obviously the playground. But in truth, Charlotte never used the playground. So it would just be to kind of wander around the park. But Claire, our youngest, typical child, really loved the playground. Everything that was already said, she just found it very fun. And it's bigger, it's more expansive of a playground. So, but yeah, it was never really something we considered for accessibility.
Because it wasn't accessible,
Right,
correct, Curtis? Right.
Yeah,
and
I
that-
mean, it's something. You can't teach it. It's something you have to live. But as soon as we had Charlotte and we were dealing with a wheelchair, we just looked at every place and every building differently automatically, right? You look at a building with stairs, you just don't look at things the same way ever again. And it's the same way, we're looking for places to play. So you assess in a millisecond whether it's a good place to go.
Right, and now we have an opportunity, which makes me feel so good about this. We have the opportunity to change that. And I was on a webinar yesterday about ADA and inclusiveness, and really being inclusive, it's not just about the wheelchair, it includes that wheelchair, but it's really about everybody feeling they belong.
Yes.
And so it's just so exciting that we have an opportunity to do that. And I know it's expensive, but we have a large area, and I'm hoping that we can make sure that these contractors and these vendors that are going to be designing for us keep that in mind.
And what's again, what comes to mind for me is because that word inclusion is used a lot. But it's not about, and I know it isn't for this group at all, but often it can be a box checking exercise. And it's not. What it is letting the individuals feel included. There's nothing, just to watch a child who normally doesn't have that interaction around all the typical kids and having the feeling they're doing the same things that the typical kids cannot be measured. So that's why I look forward to it. And that's why I'm super excited. I apologize for having dialed in so late, but I'm super excited to be able to be a part of this.
Curtis, can you tell us what Charlotte's favorite? I know she loves speed, and I know she loves the movement of everything. And we were happy to be able to provide that down at McGuan. Is there something else? And maybe we do something similar to that flatter kind of merry-go-round. But is there something else that she did love at a different park that was more accessible for her? Well,
again, just my own casual research over the years, and you all would know much more, Pam, certainly you, it seems the most popular item is always the swing, right? And that was certainly the case with Charlotte. She just, I think I sent you guys pictures of her on that Gen swing, the smile, like from ear to ear, because that vestibular movement is just so incredible. And that kind of, that comfortable, safe repetition, the big swing, right? The amount of movement you get on a swing is just incredible. So that's always been her favorite.
Okay, that should
It's
be
nice
very
to live in the
doable,
suburbs where you
right?
don't have to wait in line, right? In the city, we literally had to wait in line for swings. So
So Pam, you know where the comfort center is, for lack of a different word, but where the bathrooms are, right? And across from there where that swing is that Susan Daly was just referring to, or the fence opening.
Mhm.
That is where the swings are. So perhaps what we can do is figure out a way to make that entrance more ADA compliant, to just get in there for that part, right? And then you could, Curtis, you would just lift her, right, from the wheelchair into
Yeah.
the gen swing, right? So that's, we just want to figure out a way to get maybe the gen swing closest to that entrance. And that's the first one. It's just,
and that's what, and
Just
Oxbridge had to
spitballing.
deal with the same issue. They just realized, oh, wow, the wood chips are not going to cut it. Because most people can't force whether it's a chair or a stroller, whatever kind of stroller it happens to be, when the child, is over 100 pounds, you just can't force it through. So they dealt with that same issue of just creating a pathway with access to that gen swing.
thank you.
This feedback, Curtis, this is exactly why we need you on this committee. I was also thinking if you could think of any side-by-side play, like music or something, because I really feel like the swings sound awesome, but I also want kids to kind of experience being with a child that's, a little different from them.
With sensory.
Yeah, sensory.
Yeah, sensory.
So I think that would be really helpful. So anyway, that was great. And please, if you see anything like Ruth just did, send us stuff on email, because obviously it's hard sometimes to get it in a 1 hour meeting. What we need to see. So, but we
And
will.
the playground professionals should be able to provide us with these things too, because think about it, there's always new things they're developing.
Right.
So it'll be really fun to see something, new.
Yeah, and I loved all those kind of ground level activities that were sensory and made sounds, and I thought those were fantastic because, again, you've all heard me say before, I don't think playgrounds should have to twist themselves into knots to be fully accessible. I think most of the playground doesn't have to be, right? Wheelchairs aren't appropriate for big slides and big structures, or kids who have issues with ambulation. But just ground level stuff, having some things they can do is already an awful lot. The challenge with most playgrounds historically is there's literally nothing. Right, there's the leather strap swings and there's the climbing structures and slides. And like you said, you just drive by.
And no access.
Yeah. And it's not nice forget the parents. It's not nice for the kid, right? The kid's like, I can't go there. Right. So even if there's anything, like the swing is already a lot. A gen swing is fantastic. We went to parks in New York City where we just went straight to the gen swing, and that's the activity that you love to do, but also there's so much buzz around. It's just great to be in the middle of that, to be a part of that, even if you can't go on more than one thing. But no, I appreciate that question, Susan. And I think those ground level things, even if it's one little feature, is already a lot. One is a lot more than zero.
Yeah. And I think this is good for us when we talk about the surfacing later on in the process, when it usually happens, that we remember this, and that we, especially for the swings, I feel like that's where the wood chips get all screwed up anyway. So it's also a good place to think about alternate surfacing that is actually more ADA accessible, because it'll be better for maintenance, because all that those wood chips get replaced constantly and they can't keep up with it. So it becomes less safe anyway. Thank you so much, Curtis. That's awesome. Alyssa, you haven't been able to speak.
Yeah, that's okay. The one thing that I had been thinking about, and I had pulled up photos and things, is that there's a lot of playgrounds now that are doing the combination. I don't know from a maintenance standpoint if this would be, if it wouldn't work, but to do the partial pour and play and the partial wood chips, which I feel like I've been seeing at places, because we have such a large space, a large footprint at Cherry Lawn, if there was a way, and we would obviously, you know, we would want Curtis's feedback, we would want to work with the, you know, with the different providers to let us know what areas in terms of making sure that we have pathways and making sure that the accessible equipment has the pour and play. But then there's a lot of additional space that may not necessarily need to have that pour and play. And they do them in some very beautiful designs, and it softens up the space, and you know, which could be a nice option for us in order to keep costs down. And it also adds a little visual interest as well.
I agree with that. Just where necessary, right? You have to be practical.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's what one of the things, so I, you know, I have some photos that I was pulling up. I can kind of try to put some things together. But I mean, I'm sure you all know, you know, kind of what I'm talking about. The other
That's
thing
exactly one thing I was going to suggest as well. And we do that even at Wheat Beach. Wheat Beach isn't all poured rubber. It's sand and poured rubber. So yeah, just to make sure that each unit is accessible. You know, how do you get from point A to point B? And that would be to design it with pathways.
Yep, exactly. The other thing, because, you know, Ruth and Sarah really chimed in, you know, they know we've got kids in the same age group. So I think we're all pretty much on the same page with, you know, in terms of the users. But when we're talking about the idea of making sure that people are watching their children, if we're going to be doing this larger one, you're not going to be able to avoid having the smaller kids on there, and you don't want to, but you do want to make it so that the parents and the caregivers, it's easy for them to watch their children. And what I've been finding in a lot of the playgrounds is that it's almost like the seating for the adults is an afterthought as opposed to part of the whole plan. So it's something where there'll be seats somewhere and it's so far away. So you'll wind up with groups of moms and groups of nannies, and they'll be kind of far away, and they can't, but they're there because that's where they can get a seat. But they may not necessarily, if we make it and we have a part of the plan where we incorporate plenty of seating that gives people really good visual views of the structures, especially at the higher climbing structures and the things where you really want to make sure you can see. It might be easier. And it's just a little, you know, especially you're dealing with a lot of pregnant women and you've got the babies, and, you know, it's just so much more pleasant to be able to sit down. It's like, I won't stay at a playground that long, especially when I was pregnant, if I had to stand up the whole time because it was just too much.
That's a great thought. And
I agree 100% with that.
And Cherry Lawn, you're actually sitting with your back to the toddler area when you're watching the 5 to 12. So
Yeah.
And also, you know, if we want our parks really fully utilized in the hottest months of summer, if at all possible, some shade. Now, whether that shade can be, you know, man-made or trees, whatever. But we talked about that with McGuan. You know, sometimes it feels like, you know, the surface of the sun, right?
And that was, yeah, exactly. Yeah, that was another thing that I had put on my notes too, is that we have that tiny little gazebo. And I think this has come up in discussion before, that it's this tiny little gazebo. It's only in the little kid area. And it's usually you wind up with like a small group, primarily of nannies, I find, that will camp out there, and they will just stay and take over. And that is the only shaded space with benches that you have. So for one, it's only in the little kid area. So they'll often camp out there, and then the other kids will go in the big area, and then no one's watching the big children because they don't want to lose their spot. You know, so, you know, even there was different types of, you know, gazebos that are done, not necessarily the wood ones, that are a bit larger, that could even be done partially in the little kids and partially in the larger one if we had to. But I snapped a couple photos of things from that too, because that was another thing that I just wanted to mention.
I want to thank Sam for getting multiple picnic tables at McGuan. When we were going there a lot, when we were working at McGuan, I was going there like twice a week just to check with different nannies and moms and stuff. And the resounding thing they said was more space. And so it's such a pleasure to walk by, because you have 4 or 5 picnic tables there now, which is great. And then you have the bench over to the side. And so Pam is continuing to do that at Cherry Lawn and the other parks. And so I think, and I know that you've added a Cherry Lawn, but maybe that is definitely something, to your point, Alyssa, about a plan, where to put these things facing, you know, some facing here, it's to the side, Maybe instead of just having to be the back, it's as simple as turning it to the side. So you can be watching your younger one here and this one there. But yeah, I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, Cherry Lawn is a whole experience. It's like, I mean, it's this wonderful, large, beautiful place where people will go. I mean, we would go as a family on a weekend and we would kind of spend a good amount of time there. We'd bring lunch, we'd sit, and it's something where keeping that in mind, like McGann is something I think people more will go have a little playtime, like typical little play date area. But Cherry Lawn, I feel like is a different, people use it for a different type of experience. So we want to make sure that we're kind of looking at the big picture and we're looking at how the children and the caregivers and the families can all enjoy this space, and we can go and sit, and it just makes it so much better, and people are so much more likely to use it and come back. And
now you're going to have a wonderfully renovated, bigger gazebo down by the pond that you can take the kids down to have lunch down there too as well. So thank you, Pam and Susan, for all of that. Is there somebody who hasn't given their feedback? I wanted to read something that Megan Egan sent me a while ago for suggestions, but Susan, did we cover everybody who's got youngins? Ruth, did you go?
I was
Want to say something, I said.
Yeah.
Alyssa was talking about placement of things. And I just think when we ask the playground people to come with their ideas, one thing, that Curtis was saying with the swing, it's a bigger swing. And my only fear is putting it closer in the smaller section. I feel like a lot of those kids, their spatial awareness is really off. So maybe over by where the basketball courts are, like we can make that where the pour and play is like something where the big, like the gen swing or just other equipment that will require, a bigger child or bigger equipment might not be necessarily best placed in that toddler section. I just think about the kids running in between swings, and that was a heavier swing.
Yeah, that's a good point. That road though, it cut past the basketball court and then kind of coming down to that big circular piece of equipment that Pam was talking about on the big kids swing area. I could see a gen swing being there, but we'd really have to extend that road when it comes down versus just doing it closer. But that's still a good thing. That doesn't mean we can't do it. We just need to noodle it around.
Yeah, I just think about how many kids run in between swings. So that would be my only fear, because I know in that smaller space, there's a lot of little guys. Just to be mindful of their size.
I think we're talking about two different things, though, I think, because the gen swing, and Curtis, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I've certainly seen all different types, but the gen swing, which Curtis said that he picked up his daughter and put her into, is different than the large, big, heavy swing that you roll onto, and the actual wheelchair can swing on it too. So I've seen both types, and that's the one that I would think would be very, mindful of where you would put it, because it is so heavy. But the one where he's indicating he picks her up, puts her in the swing, the gen swing, isn't as heavy. And would you agree with that, Curtis?
Yes, I'm just about to send a picture to all of you of our former swing setup at home. So it has the same swing path as a normal swing. Yeah. And you're exactly right, Pam. It's basically just like a bed swing. And you place your child into, it's got a little bit of an incline so they don't fall over, but you place your child into it. It's not really wider than a normal swing. It's longer, but it doesn't have a different kind of flight path from a typical swing. And it's not really wider than a typical swing. But getting bumped by the gen swing or getting kicked by a kid on a strap swing, probably equivalent, but I just have the concern that Ruth mentioned of the kids running around the swings in general. It's always my biggest nightmare, right? Either getting kicked or bumped. But I'll send you that picture so you can visualize.
This is a great consideration. Ruth, that was I could see how that can happen, because it's a very enclosed area. And I know that when I've seen swings in like little areas, it's usually the push swings only, not swings that, kids are just propelling themselves. I guess I can't explain that, but it's like the little bucket swings, I guess they're called, right? So we'll be mindful of that for sure when we talk to our playground designers. Does anybody have any more? I know that Patty has a statement she wants to read, but I'd love to hear from our users more. Kathy, I know
Yes.
you're on. If you're not too busy, if you have any thoughts, you could jump in at any time also.
I'd rather hear from our users. My son is older.
Yeah, and my statement isn't my statement. It is from a user who has 3 kids, who is, kids are, Ruth and Sarah and all those kids' ages. So she had just given me that feedback.
Oh, that's fine. I didn't mean to imply that it
Yeah.
was your statement. I meant that you.
I have no statement.
I just felt like if we
Yeah.
had the ladies here.
Yeah, That's why I asked, does anybody else have feedback? We covered everybody? Okay, so this is from Megan Egan, who has multiple kids who go to Cherry Lawn, who uses it a lot. She said small, and this she sent to me a while ago. Actually, I called her the day we decided, Pam, to set up the working group, because I thought she would be a good person to provide information, not necessarily beyond the working group, because she has a lot going on, but to give feedback, like a focus group. So she said small but improved, and I can text this to you, Susan, for you to send out to everybody, but small but improved changes could include moving the metal mushrooms from beneath the zip line. So those are those little circular things under that zip line. Removal of the metal rope so this is all on the 5 to 12. I'm sorry, moving the metal mushrooms from beneath the zip line, fixing the zip line, removal of the metal rope with a nylon rope, enclosure of high openings, swapping out the wheelie monkey bars. That's what I was talking about, that we're a little more dangerous. Could be an issue. The wheelie monkey bars with another apparatus that is challenging for older kids, but cannot give kids such velocity. That's a good feedback. Raising of the tire swing, installation of a rubber mat, fixing the broken climbing ladder, more low balance beams, installation of a climbing dome. I kind of feel like we have that, Pam, with the big thing to the left. Although, Susan, remember what we saw over at Mead, which is interesting. So whether that goes there or Baker, that could be something to think about. Installation of a seated merry-go-round, installation of a surrounding fence so smaller children cannot wander over, etc. Happy to give you more feedback at any time. So.
That's very helpful. Thanks, Patty. I just wanted to move the meeting along because I think we need to kind of think about the next item on the agenda. And I think in order to do that, we have to really talk about what we want to keep that we have there, or at least some iteration of it, or the same, like getting the same type of, I guess, movement pattern that I guess you guys talk about. So why don't I go through under 5 and then the other items, and you guys can chime in, like if you think that when we talk to playground vendors, like it's our wish list that we're developing, basically, like for lack of a better way to put it, with the idea that it's not set in stone, but we just need to get some stuff, kind of to give towards these vendors so they know which direction to head in. Because as you know, there's so many different ways that we can do a playground. So if you guys can tell me what your thoughts are on these items. For the under 5, we talked about, we do want swings there, right? Is that what we're thinking? We just want to be wary of the size and how they're being managed around the littles, right? The gazebo, what do you think about that, guys? I mean, maintain it, get rid of it. What are you thinking?
I know Patty loves a good gazebo.
That's a good way to
I
put
can't
it.
stand that thing. It has been the bane of my existence since I moved here and had a kid.
Yeah.
Ruth or Alyssa, whoever said it, and I have nannies. I love my nannies. They keep me somewhat sane. I'm still not sane completely, but they just take it over every time. And if you, again, as Alyssa said, we have a lot of new people. Everyone's always having babies. The first thing, as soon as you want to do is you take your kid to this park and they can plop them in that little bucket swing. And that's the only thing they can do before they can walk, right? Like it's the only thing you can do at the park. And you are melting, like dying of heat when you are swinging your little precious newborn in their little hat and slathering the sunscreen on them, and you can't go anywhere. Every single bench, no sun, no shade at all in that little area. And then there's the picnic benches. which were great. I don't know when Pamela added those. I think there's 2 of them now, 2 picnic benches, which those are great
Yeah.
because there's 2 sides, there's the table. I think they're mostly
Shade.
shaded,
Yeah,
which is
by
really
the trees.
nice.
Yep.
So that was a great addition. But I feel like the gazebo takes up precious space, and it's just not my favorite thing. Personally, I feel like it could be utilized in a different way, whether it's more benches and umbrella, just something, or again, a sun shady. I know they're expensive, but just that. Because you can't, you just, I've never used it. Maybe one time I've used it.
Okay, so you're saying it's become an exclusive area and not.
Oh,
as, you know, it's
you do
providing-
not enter. If there's no one in there that you do not know, if you go
Yeah.
you feel like you're literally walking into someone's house, uninvited.
That's
oh,
too
I'm
bad.
sorry.
Well, that makes sense, and I
just-
think that's great feedback.
Yeah.
Okay,
So,
the
and it's not
gazebo
personal.
maybe
Like if
not
I
too
was
much.
there first with my friends and a
Yeah,
bunch of people walked in, I might be like, oh, okay, it's getting a
Yeah.
little crowded here.
got it.
Pam,
Okay,
Pam
so
and
move on
Susan,
from
is that something we could ever lift up and move to another area in the park, like on the backside of the big kids? Because we've cleared out so much area with that invasives, where we're putting it on the outside of it, and then you could do more
We could
benches
talk about it
within,
later.
and then we could do like a summer shade structure.
Yeah, we'll probably think about that at another time, but it sounds like the gazebo is not it. I just want to run through this list real quick so we could develop it because we don't have a lot of time. The 2 spinners, it seemed like that was like people love those. And do you think that's enough, or should we ask for more? Is just out of curiosity. I'm just not saying I want it either way, or just at least have spinners, let's say. How about the rocking things? I remember doing those with my kids for many years. How is that movement?
My
People-
kids love those rockers.
Okay,
That little
cool.
thing on the spring.
Okay, yeah, really, you just go back and forth.
And
The
like one of them's
seesaw-
a double seater too, which is good.
Yeah. the airplane, right? And then the seesaw, what do you think of that, guys? Is that good? Something like that? Okay, good. I think I see
Yeah.
you talking.
It all gets used. At least when
Yeah.
I'm there, I will say the kids area, everything gets touched.
That's great.
It's great. All of
Okay.
it. I would just say the big structure is
We need
probably
to
just in
replace
need of
that.
a little,
We need a
more
new
fun.
one. Yeah, that's getting
everything
used.
gets used.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that under 5 is good. I have a wish list for that. And then let's go to 5 to 12. Okay, we said we like the swings. We like the tire swing, right? The jumper thing, you know what I'm talking about? It's like that, it's a square and you jump on it, you know what I'm talking about? And people, do you guys remember it? It basically has a spring in the middle and you kind of hold on to the sides and you jump up and down and there's 4 sides to it. I have a picture of it. If you guys, I could send it. It's kind of
Yeah.
a weird thing, but
I think
maybe
the kids, I'm not there enough to see big kids on it because my kids
Yeah.
are still somewhat younger.
Yeah.
I think it's fun from what I can tell, but only if you have other people doing it
Playing
with
with
you,
you.
I think, because
Yeah.
I think you have to be pretty strong to get
Yeah.
the stuff to move.
yeah.
So my kids just either are just too tiny or just not strong enough, whatever. But I couldn't tell you how popular that structure is.
So maybe
I have no
something that
idea.
mimics jumping, but we'll figure it out because it sounds like it's a good movement for kids to jump up and down. Large structure. We need a large structure. What elements do you guys like in it? Because we've heard some things people don't like. I think I mentioned earlier that the roller slide was the thing that we always heard was great, but I don't know what do you guys think? What should we be asking for in the large structure?
I don't
One
like,
thing is I noticed a lot of kids are climbing on the outside bridge area, like the thing that loops around. I always see kids using any opportunity to climb, right? They're always
Climbing?
trying to climb on it. So something that allows them that gross motor climbing. I feel like they're all doing what they're not really supposed to. I guess at a playground, you can do whatever you want, but they're always climbing on the outside. And I feel like those bridges and things are always a big hit. I feel like kids love those little just movement things.
Do you like the monkey bars without the rotating rectangles? Would you like that?
My daughter is a huge fan of monkey bars. It's the highlight. She will only go to playgrounds with monkey bars. It's her thing. So I feel like monkey bars are always getting used.
How about the
I
zip line
agree.
thing? The zip line
they
guy.
love the zip lines, but my kids do. The only problem is that the way it's very short.
Yeah, it
It's
is.
also quite high. So
Mhm.
even kids who are on the older side, you still have to kind of make sure you're under them because it's a pretty big drop. So again, it's so short too, that the idea
yeah.
of a zip line like the one that they have at Royal are wonderful. But I think this one, kids use it because it's there, but I think
Too
the
short.
reality exactly this one. But I if we can fit some kind of a zip line, I think kids will use it. But again, only one at a time can. So then you wind up with a kind of if it's a busy day, you wind up with a backlog. It's not something multiple kids can use at the same time. So that there's that problem.
And also a zip line, I don't know what Royal has, but I know Henley has one you sit on. This one I think is just that little skinny
Yeah.
bar that you're supposed to hold on to, right? So that's challenging right from the start. So I don't know if we can get one that they sit on, if that's what they have at Royal. I know at Henley it's a huge hit, the one they sit on.
Yeah, Royal has one. I think it has like a little disc, so it's almost
Yeah.
like the rope with the disc, and they can kind of sit on it. And kids love it, but it does require a really good amount of space. So I don't know. We can put it in a wish list, but we may not have the space for it.
Got it. The other thing that I was thinking about that we might not do in the big one, but we did at McGuan was those panels, because it's not serving. This is a more of an older kids section. We might not need, we did all those panels to keep younger kids kind of motivated and stuff. I think we don't need that in this structure at least. Okay, it sounds like we have some things. I mean, if you guys have anything else you're thinking, if you feel strongly about, shout. Oh, Sarah, you have something? Go ahead.
Sorry. Yeah, I know we didn't get to do it at McGuan, but the kids love at the under 5 section where they pretend that they're doing like a food stand. So any structure we put there should definitely, I mean, they take the wood chips, they pretend they're everything. Cookies, ice cream, come get your and the kids, it's probably the one area that I've noticed where kids will play with other strangers, like they kind of do it and they,
So
co-play
pretend
whatever.
play, basically, because like
Anything under there that we can just, I think there used to be like, it looks like you
the
could
sand
use
thing used to
water,
have-
sand or something.
Yeah.
It doesn't work that well, but
Right.
yeah, the kids love that area.
Okay, that's
So
something to
definitely need to have
remember,
that in the structure.
We
And I
did
just
that at
wanna-
Reed Beach with the water piece, and you could make things with the water and sand and stuff. So I'll make. Oh, sorry, Pam. Go ahead.
I just want to say I disagree. At the 5 to 12, I really think panels should be included because that's the sensory type of things that we want for all abilities. So I feel that we need to keep those.
Yeah,
in.
we'll keep an open mind. I'm just saying that because we have a younger section that's very divided, I think the sensory stuff is not as critical. If there's something that makes sense, I'm okay with it. But I also don't want, this is going to be a huge structure. I don't want it to be busy by a lot of really interesting things. So anyway, last thing is how the fourth, it would be the playground reps. And I just think that to make the process go further and to kind of see what is actually out there, inviting the playground reps to kind of start talking to us is a good idea with these wish lists in mind, and bringing in new thoughts, and talk. And maybe when they bring them in, we're able to talk to, like Patty could talk to, some of the end users. You could bring them to your kids, do your little informal surveys that you've been doing, which is awesome. So is everybody okay with that if we start that process? Because I feel like we have a good sense of where we need to go now. And I think we just need to know what the options are to kind of be able to
I also wanted to suggest, because I've been obviously thinking a lot about time.
Yeah.
But if we're going to invite in the Connecticut playground reps, right? All of them get a shot to put their best design within our budget. But in lieu of time, when we look at both Baker and Cherry Lawn, I wanted to just open up the discussion of maybe they put 2, put in both designs. They're already designing for Cherry Lawn, but why not get ahead of this? Even though we're not doing Baker right now, but if we do have them put both designs for both playgrounds, at least we would be one step ahead.
I think I'm all for efficiency, that, but I really feel like Cherry Lawn is so complicated. I really want to get this right. Especially now that we're thinking of adding in more inclusive things. I just think, I know just from a personal standpoint, I just want to make sure that we give this the time it needs and not rush Baker. Baker's not going to be as long as this one, to be honest with you, just because of what we're looking at there. And right now I'd like to focus. And I feel like Baker, we talked about this a lot, is Baker's going to be headed probably in a more naturalistic setting. And I feel like we're talking like this, that's apples and oranges now a little bit. And I'd rather get the vendors that specialize in this type of thing for Cherry Lawn, and then maybe switch gears and go more naturalistic, vendors that can do that in a way that, is, I don't know, but I'd be happy to hear other suggestions. Patty or Sarah or Alyssa or Curtis, what your thoughts are on doing both at once or versus doing one.
I mean, I do like the efficiency of it, but because of the fact that, I mean, we would have to sit down and really give them a wish list for Baker and take the time to do that. And I think we're also looking for something quite different for Baker, like you said. So I don't even know if it would necessarily be the same vendors. I don't know, but I think you're right. I agree with the efficiency, but at the same time, I think we need to really focus on Cherry Lawn and kind of give it the focus.
I think the difference is that the vendors could possibly be the same.
You think?
And well, we don't have to, but
Yeah.
the vendors that we would be inviting in for this would all be on the Connecticut state bid, which means that we don't have to go to bid, which wastes a lot of time too. That's why they do this Connecticut bid. So that, but if we go to various vendors outside of this, that's when we would have to go to bid. And my concern about that is that it's all about the lowest bidder. Right. And then, we really we're able to be a lot more flexible if they're already on a bid list, which is nice.
The only thing I was thinking, obviously efficiency, but also we know that Cherry Lawn is going to be closed for the most part, right? Whenever we decide to do it. I don't know if there's going to be some kind of workaround, but let's just assume park's got to be closed. And that's going to be obviously a huge deal for the town to not have their go-to. But if Baker, as we all just said, is going to be an easier, faster project, if it's done and it's pretty good, then at least now we have 2 finished playgrounds for people to supplement while Cherry Lawn is finished, versus if Cherry Lawn's not and Baker's still just Baker, which again, I don't know who goes there, then we're just down to McGuan.
But I'm not talking about construction. I'm just talking about design. So design, when they forward designs to us, we would obviously do Cherry Lawn first.
Okay, I got it. Curtis, what do you think? I want to hear what you want.
Oh, no, I raised my hand as someone who goes to Baker every week because I live near there now. And, there's baseball and soccer that go on there, and the dog walkers meet on Saturdays and Sundays on the field. It's pretty awesome. But I agree with the whole idea that it's a fraction of the complexity. It's a very simple project if you want to keep it, as you said, using your word natural. But to Pam's point, if we have information that we can share with vendors so they can get started thinking early, there's no harm in sharing that.
I just don't want to be preoccupied by Baker, you know what I'm saying? Because I feel like Cherry Lawn has so many intricacies, and I don't want to, we only meet for an hour for our, because we're all pretty busy people. And if I start having to think about what, an aspect of Baker, and then they're presenting on Baker, we're shortchanging Cherry Lawn. We're just extending that period. And Cherry Lawn has more needs that, like, the equipment is aging. There's so many, and it's a very heavy used park for the town. And if we don't spend, I'm not saying rush through it, but I want to take the time to make sure it's done right. And if we're going to spend the time focusing on the most important part, to be honest with you at this point, is critical, versus Baker, which there's not a safety need right now. We haven't received any complaints about anything there. So it's not like we're rushing to get that done because, something's going on there. Like, we had to do McGuan in a very quick way because of surfacing, right? But now Cherry Lawn is more complex. There are definitely challenges there with surfacing and, other things that might be going on there. So that's why I'm not a person that is inefficient ever, but this is when I want to make sure it's about doing a comprehensive look at Cherry Lawn and doing the right thing there.
Yeah, Susan, I think you make amazing points, and I think you've done this many times before, so you know the complexity of having to do it. But I think Sarah raised a great point of what do we do when Cherry Lawn gets closed, and where does everybody go? And I think that if we look at Baker maybe at the same time, then people have a park to go to, and they're not going to go to McGuan. But Baker's close enough and centralized enough that I think people will go there. So I think she raises a good issue just for all of us to consider.
Patty, do you have something? Or, the other option is to to just do Baker first and then it's done. I mean, I'm
Yeah, I
not,
think if you're asking me, cherry
Mhm.
lawn's a priority, it's the priority for the selectmen. So I think we, that is the heavily used park. That's the focus. We've learned a lot through McGuan. So our process, our learning level has jumped. So it might not take us all as long, but again, we did that pretty quickly. We did a great job and an amazing kind of warp speed when you think about it. I hear what you're saying, Pam, completely, but I have to agree with Susan. I mean, it's 2 playgrounds at Cherry Lawn. We're looking at 2 playgrounds. So I think we need to focus on that. It's a lot. And I think, we'll probably get the feedback and then narrow down the list that we're looking at. I love the idea of, that was very helpful for you to tell us about if we use the Connecticut State, to remind us, if we use the Connecticut State guys within that bid process, that gives us more flexibility. I don't always love going to the lowest bidder. Sometimes I do, but not always, especially with playground equipment. You want it efficient but safe. So what my thought is, maybe as we end up kind of reducing the number of, we get a bunch of ideas, but we reduce the number of vendors that we are then seriously looking at, maybe then we open it up to those kind of final 2 or 3 and almost then start the Baker work. I'm just throwing that out there. I know that one of you all on this call recommended the Earthscape or whatever that was called. That was that was very woodsy. And Kathy, I know you commented that you thought that'd be great there. That was more woodsy. That's not in that Connecticut bid process. So that's an example where we might decide we want to use them. They're totally separate. We can just focus on that as a separate thing. So I just think this is a big project. We're going to learn how it works. We're going to have McGuan put in this summer, which will be great. And then we'll also probably have learned, oh, maybe we could have done this or that. Right. So I don't want to be jumping ahead.
Let's just, why don't we invite the CT reps to do Cherry Lawn for now? Because we can move on that now because we have a wish list. And just go from there and see how we feel. If we feel like we're getting good responses and we can get that done quickly and we have time to focus on Baker, I'm for it. But at this point in time, I don't want to say we're doing both at one time, just to be fair. So I'm not comfortable with it having done a playground thing from start to finish, before this and also, McGuan. I just want to get this done right. It's just, we have too much at stake not to do this the way we need to do it. So let's just do that for now. And if we decide in the next 2 meetings we can, let's do it then, but not now. Let's go on to the update of McGuan because we're getting towards the end of everybody's time already.
I have to hop. I'm sorry, Susan. Thank you, everybody. Headed to another meeting.
Thank you so much, Curtis. There we are.
Take care.
Okay. Pam, if you want to give us a quick update on McGuan, so then we can close out the meeting.
Yes. So the update is this. The great news is that John confirmed that the playground equipment will be arriving in June. So it will be a June project, not a July project, because he was concerned that it would be even bumped out to July. That's good news. The timeline of this project will be the demo of the old playground and rough grading of the site will be 3 to 5 days. The next step is accepting the Miracle Playground and inventory and starting the work. Says we usually work out of a secured storage container and put all the small parts and pieces inside at night. That's about 1 day. Then they're going to install the Miracle Playground, which is 10 to 14 days. Prep for rubber safety surfacing 1 day. Install rubber safety surfacing will be as close to the playground installation as possible. That's 5 days. And then the surfacing needs a minimum of 24 hours before anyone can use the playground. So that at a max, that's 26 days.
So does that mean it'll be done in July or mid-July?
Depends on how
Whether
early in June we get it. So
it's about a month, basically,
about a
from
month.
when that playground hits.
And that's a max. So it could be 3 weeks.
Right. I actually deal in maxes because then my expectations are, will be met if it goes. That's the way my life is these days. Anyway, that's great, Pam. That's great news. And I think that, it's great to see that one of the first thing that we've done is it's moving along and the equipment's coming in. But anyway, I thank you everybody for your help. I just think this is awesome. I think that we're all, trying our best to create the best playgrounds for our town's children. So thank you very much for doing that.
So I'm going to reach out to all the Connecticut reps.
You got all the wish lists, or did you wrote down all?
How
of them?
many are there, Pam?
I have to go back. I would be guessing if I told you. So maybe 6 or 7.
That's fine. I mean, why not? Let's just cast a wide net, and we might see pieces of one that we like and not of others, and like we did in the last iteration. So
The good thing about this is that this gives them the chance to throw in those discounts like John did. He took $25,000 off that playground to get the job.
Yeah.
So now they'll put their best work to get this job. This is a big job.
yep, competition is a good thing always. So appreciate that, Pam, that you're doing that, because I know it's a lot of work, and I don't mean to give you more work by keeping Baker separate, but
No
I
worries.
just think that we're gonna get something good out of Cherry Lawn first, and then we'll know. Okay, thank you, ladies. Have a great day, and we'll see you in a month, I guess. Is that, or I don't know, is it? Yeah.
I don't have a
When is our next meeting?
from me, but I kind of did bi-weekly, and
Okay.
just in the case that if we didn't have any material, we could just cancel it.
Right.
So
But,
I will send an email out with the schedule again.
Yeah, because I think it depends on if our next meeting is looking at options from playground vendors and they're not ready in 2 weeks. Let's not do
We'll
the next meeting
jump to the
because
next.
I don't want
Yeah,
to.
because I think we have, it looks like I have it on the calendar for March 23rd.
That sounds right. Yeah. So let's find out if the playground vendors can get us something that they can meet.
It won't be
Or if
that
there's
soon.
it won't be 2 weeks, right? Okay.
Let's focus on the following one, the April meeting.
Okay. Yeah,
Okay.
and then we could just spend, give everybody 10 minutes, whoever comes in to talk, about it.
I will
Okay.
send an email regarding that. Cancel next March meeting, and we'll see everybody in April.
That's great. Thank you, Pam. Thank you, ladies. Have a
Great
great
meeting.
Bye.
Thank
Enjoy
you.
Vermont.
Nice to see everybody. Have a good day.
Bye-bye.